Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to unpack the story of a group known as the Tanglewood Boys.
That's right. We've got this Wikipedia entry, which is actually pretty comprehensive. It pulls from news reports, books.
Right, so it gives us a solid base. Our mission really is to get you, the listener, a clear picture of who these guys were.
Exactly. What they were up to, their connection to bigger organized crime outfits, the important stuff, without getting totally lost in the weeds.
Okay, so let's dive in. The Tanglewood Boys. They popped up around the 1990s, mainly in Yonkers, New York.
Yeah, Yonkers. But they weren't just stuck there. They operated around Westchester County, the Bronx, even parts of Manhattan, like the Upper West Side.
And the description that jumps out immediately is this recruitment gang idea, or a farm team, basically, for the Lucchese crime family.
That farm team concept is crucial. Think of it like the minor leagues feeding into Major League Baseball, but, for the Mafia.
Right, a proving ground.
Exactly. A place to sort of learn the ropes, maybe prove your loyalty before moving up. And the ethnicity, primarily Italian-American, fits that classic profile for New York organized crime at the time.
And the location. They often hung out at the Tanglewood Shopping Center. That sounds so normal.
It does, doesn't it? It's
Oh.
kind of jarring. You get this suburban shopping mall, and it's also the base of operations for a pretty serious criminal group.
Adds a layer of, I don't know, almost banality to it.
Yeah. And here's another layer. Many members were reportedly sons of made men.
Ah, okay, so actual initiated members of the Mafia. That's significant.
Very significant. It suggests this wasn't just kids getting together. It was almost like a generational thing. Dad's in the life, now the son's getting involved through this feeder group.
So that connection probably gave them some immediate clout, or maybe just fear factor on the street.
Absolutely. Potential connections, maybe a degree of protection, maybe even an expectation that they'd follow that path. It shows how entrenched these networks were.
Okay, let's talk activities. The list is, well, it's long. Racketeering, bookmaking, drug trafficking.
Armed robbery, arson, assault, and murder. They weren't messing around.
No, that variety of crime. Does that suggest they were just grabbing any opportunity, or were they strategically building power?
Probably a bit of both. They were clearly trying to make money through various illegal means, but also establishing territory and dominance. Their main alliance was, as we said, the Lucchese family.
And rivals.
Various gangs, but notably the Albanian boys seem to come up quite a bit in the incidents, so you've got these turf wars simmering too.
Which leads us into some specific, pretty grim incidents, like the murder of Kazi Merchant in March '92.
Yeah, that one started over a racial argument, apparently. Involved members Darren Mazzarella and Joseph Petrocelli.
And Petrocelli got life for that murder. But then his brother, John...
John Petrocelli apparently went on a revenge spree, killed an Albanian gangster who supposedly insulted him,
Okay.
and then just seemingly targeted a random African-American man in the Bronx and killed him too.
Wow, that level of retaliation, it's just brutal. Speaks volumes about their mindset, doesn't it?
It really does. A total disregard for life outside their own code, whatever that was. A very dangerous us versus them mentality, fueled by vengeance.
Then, just a couple of years later, February '94, there's the murder of Louis Balancio.
Right, a 21-year-old Mercy College student.
Yeah.
Tragically, it seems he was mistaken for a rival Albanian gangster, killed outside the strike zone bar.
And this is where the links get clearer, maybe? The FBI apparently saw Anthony Santorelli dumping bloody clothes.
Which were later matched to Balancio through DNA. Pretty damning. And then Anthony DeSimone, crucially, the son of a Lucci capo, Salvatore DeSimone, he just disappears, goes into hiding.
Okay, so the son of a high-ranking Lucci's member is directly implicated, or at least connected enough to run. That really ties the Tanglewood Boys' violence back to the main family, doesn't it?
It strongly suggests it, yeah. It implies awareness, maybe involvement, definitely a connection that went right up the chain. The fact he felt the need to flee tells you a lot.
There's also this strange side story around the same time, 1994. A guy named Joseph Lubrano.
Ah, yes, the wrongful conviction case.
Yeah.
He was convicted of beating a black police officer.
And during the trial, they brought up his alleged membership in the Tanglewood Boys. He served 4 years before being exonerated.
Right. It shows how just being associated with the group, even if wrongly, could be incredibly damaging. That reputation alone was enough to potentially sway things.
Guilt by association, basically.
Pretty much. It highlights the fear and notoriety the group had achieved.
Okay, fast forward a bit to May 1995. There's this thing called a sit-down. Sounds formal, but...
Yeah, sit down in mob terms usually means a meeting to resolve a dispute. This one was between Alfred Santorelli and Darren Massarella
Oh.
and two brothers, Joseph and Adam Cosentino, about bookmaking territory in the Bronx.
And it didn't go well.
Not at all. It turned into a huge brawl, bottles flying, gunfire. And this happened in a Pelham Parkway bar owned by a Bonanno family soldier, Vincent Bassiano.
So, involving another mafia family, too.
Exactly. And during this chaos, a hitman associated with the Genovese family, Michael Zanfardino, actually shot Darren Massarella.
The same Massarella involved in the Casium merchant killing earlier.
The very same. But the violence didn't stop there. There was retaliation for Mazzarelli getting shot.
Of course there was.
Petruccelli, John Petruccelli again, the brother of Joseph and others, apparently went after Paul Cicero. Cicero was the cousin of someone involved in the bar shooting.
And they killed him.
Stabbed him to death. It shows how these disputes could escalate incredibly quickly and cross different family lines, utterly chaotic and deadly.
So things are clearly spiraling. What starts the actual downfall of the group? Seems like Mazzarella plays a key role again.
He does. Darren Mazzarella, after getting shot and likely facing charges himself, including eventually for the Blancio murder, he flipped. Became a government witness in 1997.
The classic insider turning informant. That's usually the beginning of the end.
It often is. His cooperation was apparently devastating. He provided information that not only took down Tanglewood Boys members, but also hit the Lucchese family hard.
And his testimony also cleared up the Joseph Lubrano situation.
Yes, importantly, Mazzarella confirmed Lubrano wasn't actually part of the gang during the time of that police assault he was wrongly convicted for. So finally, some vindication for Lubrano.
Okay. So Mazzarella talks. What happens next? The legal hammer comes down.
Pretty much. Anthony Santorelli was charged regarding the bloody clothes from the Blancio murder. Mazzarella himself was charged with the murder. Anthony De Simone, the capo's son who fled.
He eventually turned himself in.
Yes, in 1999. His case was complicated, conviction overturned. Then he pleaded guilty to manslaughter in 2010. Ultimately, served no extra time beyond what he'd already done.
And John Petruccelli, the one involved in multiple killings.
He got life in prison in 2003 for the murder of Paul Cicero, based largely on Mazzarella's testimony.
So Mazzarella's cooperation led to some serious sentences.
Definitely. And the violence continued even as the group weakened. In 2005, the guy apparently leading the remnants, Michael Chunk Londonio, was killed in a shootout with police.
So arrests, informants, key figures getting killed. It sounds like a classic dismantling.
It does. But the story doesn't quite end there. Even as late as 2016, more information surfaced.
Oh, what was that?
Another government informant, Anthony Zaccolio, revealed something interesting. He claimed that Joseph Lubrano, the guy wrongly convicted,
Yeah.
and Stephen Correa Jr., who became a prominent Lucchese figure, actually both started their criminal careers with the Tanglewood Boys.
Wow. So Lubrano, despite being exonerated for that one crime and Mazzarella saying he wasn't involved in them, might have actually been part of the crew earlier or later.
It seems possible, according to this informant, and it definitely reinforces that farm team idea. Even if the Tanglewood Boys dissolved as a specific crew, the individuals moved on, sometimes up, within organized crime.
Like an incubator for future mobsters.
Precisely, a starting point.
And almost inevitably, they get a mention in pop culture. CSI. NY, you said.
Yeah, a couple of episodes featured a fictionalized version. It happens a lot, doesn't it? These real-life crime stories capture the imagination.
Why do you think that is? The violence, the secrecy?
Probably a mix. There's the whole hidden world aspect, the danger, the codes they live by. It's dramatic stuff. Fiction gives people a safe way to explore that darker side of society, even if it's often, jazzed up for TV.
Makes sense. So wrapping this up then, the Tanglewood Boys. 1990s, Yonkers-based, Italian-American, essentially a Lucchese recruitment crew.
Involved in a whole mess of crime, racketeering, drugs, extreme violence, murder, very much tied into the generational aspect of Mafia families.
And ultimately brought down, or at least severely disrupted, by internal conflicts and, crucially, an insider, Darren Massarella, becoming a government witness.
Exactly. It's a really vivid example of that farm team system at work, the brutality involved, and how these groups can eventually collapse from within, often with law enforcement pushing hard from the outside.
Okay, so here's something to chew on after our deep dive. The Tanglewood Boys seemed to rise pretty quickly in the 90s, but were significantly disrupted within maybe a decade or so.
Yeah, not a super long run in the grand scheme of things.
So what do you think were the biggest factors in that relatively fast rise and fall? Was it just this specific volatile mix of people and circumstances in Yonkers at that time? Or does their story tell us something broader about how these kinds of mafia-linked street crews operate, maybe how inherently unstable they are, especially when betrayal enters the picture?
Hmm, that's a great question, something definitely worth pondering.